Welcome to the Yappy Hour, powered by Yappily, the podcast for dog lovers who want to better understand and connect with their canine companions. I'm your host, Nathan Dunleavy, and today's episode is all about rescue dogs and separation anxiety, a topic close to my heart both personally and professionally. Joining me is Rachel Rodgers, founder of Nose to Trowel, an experienced trainer, behaviourist who works closely with rescue dogs and their humans to rebuild trust, confidence and calm. If you've ever brought home a rescue dog who couldn't settle when you've left the room, or you're supporting one now, this conversation will help you feel less alone and more empowered. So grab a cup of tea, settle in, and let's get started. Back to the Yappy Hour, powered by Yappily. I'm your host, Nathan Dunleavy, and I'm so excited to bring you another episode of the Yappy Hour today. Joining me, we have Rachel Rodgers from Nose to Trowel. Rachel, so excited to have you here. Welcome to the Yappy Hour. How are you doing?
I'm great, thank you. Thanks so much for having me on.
You're most welcome. So we're going to be diving into separation anxiety and rescue dogs today, and how it specifically affects rescue dogs. We're going to be looking into sort of like SA. And this is really exciting because we do have a few people coming on talking about SA, but this is our first conversation and episode today about SA, because I was due to have one the other day, but fortunately the lady, her dog was being put to sleep. So we've had to reschedule. So this is our first, like I've been doing these since January. This is our first episode about SA, and I love SA. I've got my own SA dog, and I'm a certified SA pro behaviour consultant with one of Julie Naismith's cohort. And so yeah, it's a really interesting subject because, like I say, I got my own SA dog, and I used to do some SA work, and I just found it really interesting, rewarding work. So Rachel, enough about me. Could you start by sharing a bit about your work with rescue dogs and how SA, separation anxiety, became such a key focus for you?
Yeah, so my kind of entire working career really started in rescue. So I spent the first 10 years, I'm showing how old I am now, working for some of the largest rehoming centres in the UK. So I was working for Dogs Trust, I was working for the RSPCA.
Okay.
So like my background is very much kind of rescue based. Thanks to Boris, I kind of had to adapt
Bloody
very
Boris.
quickly because I actually went self-employed 10 days before we were put into the first COVID lockdown. Not in hindsight, greatest timing to leave a employed job in rescue and decide to set up on my own. But it meant that I had to kind of a deep dive into using technology because we all had to.
Yeah.
And then just like everybody else, really, we had the kind of pandemic puppy boom and all these dogs weren't really exposed to other people and were never left because none of us could leave.
Yeah.
And so more of my client base started to be dogs who had separation issues. So it just kind of became naturally a thing I ended up niching down into. And I did the Julie Naismith course as well.
Oh, yes.
Another one of hers who's kind of flying the flag for the be right back kind of way of training.
I love
It's odd, isn't it? And the other thing that kind of, I almost in a way got shoehorned into it because loads of trainers in my local area will not touch separation cases.
I know.
I don't know why everyone's got this
I
burning
know,
desire.
right?
And that's what they want, is the aggression cases.
And I don't like the aggression cases.
It's like weird, isn't it? And then I've got all these clients coming to me going, I've got a dog who can't be left home alone, but no one will help me.
Right.
Bizarre.
It is
Yeah,
bizarre.
so that is most of my workload. And I, other than pet trailing, is now separation stuff.
Oh, pet trailing. So we might have to touch on that because I don't know much about that. But yeah, that's similar to me. So I had a dog walking business and I thought I was busy before lockdown. And then obviously Boris happened in the pandemic. And then I had to shut my business for 2 weeks. And I was like, oh my God, because I've got a really strong work ethic. I'm always working. I'm like, God, what do I do? So then I started signing up for all these courses and signed up for Julie Naismith's course. And I thought, oh, this is a good thing because all these people are getting dogs, which is great. They're home, but then they're going to start going back to work and these dogs are not going to cope. So I thought, right, now's the time to train as an SA trainer. My own dog started exhibiting like SA tendencies, and my husband blames like the fact that he was for so long, and obviously he was at home and he was quite young. So yeah, and then I had to slowly rebuild my dog walking business again, and we were allowed to work for key workers and the elderly. And then I started branching out into training and then SA specifically. But yeah, the pandemic had a lot to answer for. Do you know the funny thing was, like, I used to be part of quite a lot of networking groups, and they were all in there going, "Oh, you must pivot, you must take your business online." And I was like, well, I can't walk bloody dogs online, but I could do some dog training, SA work, obviously, because Julie's method's all done online. I can do SA, but I can't bloody walk dogs online, so I can't pivot in that sense. So I had to retrain. And you're right, like a lot of the trainers and behaviourists around here just don't like doing SA, because I think like it's a lot involved and it's not a quick fix.
I think as well, it's not the same as most dog training.
Yeah.
Like, as someone who's spent, over 15 years training dogs and being a clinical animal behaviourist, it's not the same methods. Like, we're not doing the same stuff day to day as you are with a reactivity case. And I think that puts a lot of people off. And I do think the tech side puts a lot of trainers and behaviourists doing it as well. Whereas I'm maybe a bit of a geek. And before I did Julie's stuff, I did everything on Excel. And I used to love producing graphs for my clients of like, here's how long your dog's been behind the door, and here's how long you've been out the house in total. And I love doing it manually. The fact now we have an app that does it, and I don't have to put numbers in and create equations on Excel to make it do it for me. It's lovely.
Oh, me and Excel do not get on, but no, the app is great. I last worked with a client in December actually, and she went on to then use the app herself. But the app is fascinating, and like I was saying, like not a lot of them around here, the trainers and behaviourists didn't want to do SA, but then they were happy to take the reactivity and aggression stuff, and I was like, I don't like that stuff. You can take it. So yeah, I find SA fascinating. I like, there's a lot of work involved, but I like helping the owners and their dogs. So moving on to our next question. So why do you think separation anxiety is so prevalent in rescue dogs, Rachel?
It's difficult, isn't it? Because I think it's probably more prevalent in every dog, if we look at the dog population as a whole, than perhaps we realise. And I think maybe we're seeing more of that now because we're all better with tech, and loads more of us have dog cameras or Ring doorbells or whatever to find out that our dog isn't coping when we're not there. But it's that kind of chicken and egg thing, isn't it? Have they got separation issues because they're a rescue dog? Or is the reason they were rehomed in the first place because they couldn't be left, and actually that's why they were given up? And while sometimes we get that information, and this sounds really cynical, but I don't think perhaps everybody is honest.
True.
And I have been an animal centre manager and I've run rescue kennels.
Oh, wow.
I don't think people are always honest when they give a dog up.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that is because the stigma, isn't there? If you're saying, I can't keep this dog anymore, and you've reached that decision as a household or as a family, it's a horrible position to be in. But I think I wonder if perhaps there is an element of it's easier to say the dog has done something particularly bad. For example, it bit our cat, so it can't stay in the house anymore, or something like that, than to go, I just can't cope with the fact my life is being impacted.
Yeah.
And I can't go to a friend's wedding. I can't go to the gym. I can't go to the cinema with the girls anymore. I can't do it. I think that's more, it comes across more selfish.
Yes.
And so I think maybe don't admit that separation is a part of the reason they rehome a dog. It's obviously not always the case, but I do think there's an aspect of we're not necessarily always told.
Yeah, and that's like, because you only get told certain things, don't you? You're led by what the pet parent, guardian, owner tells you. So they're not always forthcoming with information. So it must be even harder from a rescue environment because you're limited to what information you may be given. And I don't know, like, I feel sad admitting this sometimes, but I mean, in the early days with Bailey, my SA dog, we did think maybe we weren't in the right home for him. But he's got chronic back pain as well, so that's kind of in the mix, and he resource guards. But I said, like, he wouldn't have been able to go to like a normal home that weren't sort of dog savvy like me. At least I've got the experience and the certifications behind me, and I know a bit about it. That he's probably in the best home because we've got a multi-dog household as well.
You've got to read body language.
Yeah, well, it's a whole control management. So there was a fleeting moment where I said, "Oh God, maybe he would be better somewhere else." But there's no way I could part of him now. Like he's like our special little boy in that. But yeah, like it is tough. It is really tough.
Yeah, it is.
So,
And I think there's absolutely no judgment on my end of if someone comes to the decision that they can't cope with a dog who has separation issues. And in some cases, it may well be that the kindest thing to do for that dog is to look for a home where someone perhaps can be around a bit more. Because
yeah.
like lifestyle just plays a huge part in that. But in terms of kind of your original question of like, is a rescue dog, is there a reason they've got it more? Is it more prevalent in that population? Perhaps an aspect of it is the fact that those previous bonds, and we know they form attachments and attachment styles the way humans do, like that is disrupted and broken if you end up in a rehoming centre for whatever reason, whatever reason, whether it's human, whether it's dog related, that they've ended up there. Like that's traumatic for the dog. And so they are going to struggle more when they now form a new attachment with someone. Probably not going to be the most secure attachment, is it? When they've been, potentially in their mind abandoned.
Yeah.
Before.
Yeah.
Very difficult.
That trauma sort of sticks with them as well. And they could be thinking, oh, I'm going to get abandoned again. And obviously they can take a while to decompress as well. So there's a lot at play. Okay, brilliant. So moving on to our next section. So it's all around why rescue dogs are more prone to SA. So we might, we've probably touched on it a little bit here, but what might make a rescue dog more vulnerable to developing separation related issues, Rachel?
Yeah, so I mean, we've touched on the first one, haven't we? That kind of the bonds have already been broken and they've been left and had that traumatic experience before. The other thing I think is, and this is no disrespect to rescue centres whatsoever, but it's never going to be the same environment as being in a loving home. It's just not. Like, and if we think about the number of dogs in a kennels compared to the number of staff that they have and the amount of human interaction that they get during that stay, it's limited, isn't it? The staff aren't there 24/7. They're not with the dogs for very long each day because they physically can't be. And then at, let's say, 5 o'clock, the team go home, the dogs stay in the kennel. They don't see anyone else till 8, 9 o'clock the following morning. And so actually that can play a big role in those cases, can't it? Because those dogs, they start to then, when they do get back to having interaction with the human, they don't want to go back to that. I don't want to be left for 10, 15 hours. I can't cope with it. I need some social companionship.
Yeah.
And maybe in kennels, they might have, I think of the local kennels near me, they quite often, the number of dogs they have is just so high at the minute.
Right.
The dogs are sharing kennels. So, me and you both know, as people who work on separation cases, a second dog doesn't fix a dog with a separation anxiety problem. But there is, for some of those dogs, at least a companion there.
Yes.
They're not entirely on their own. They're not socially isolated. There is another dog with them. But then if they go to a house and they're the solo dog in the home, they don't even have another dog for company. There is potentially nothing.
Yeah.
They're really isolated again, aren't they?
Yeah, I didn't. Do you know what? I'm a bit naive. I didn't really know that about in rescue places, that once everyone goes home at 5, is there no one there in the evening to check on them?
It depends. Yeah, it depends on the kennels. So most places will have to have someone on site.
Yeah.
From like a security viewpoint.
Yeah.
There's no one going into the kennels on a night shift with the dogs at like 8 o'clock to give them a bone and a pat on the head and say night. It isn't like at home where you would say, no, it's in the morning, and give them a little biscuit before bed. No, like the staff have to go home, don't they? They've probably got their own dogs to walk, their own families to go and look after. And so other than the manager or whoever's on the night shift, depending on which, rescue you're with, there's no one there.
Yeah.
No one.
And have you seen there's a certain breed that are more affected by separation related behaviours?
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I know, I got asked this previously, and so, the research suggests golden retrievers, but then in the 12 years that I've seen separation cases, I've never seen a golden retriever. Touch wood, I'm probably going to get an influx of them now. But I've never had one as a client. But I see a lot of cockapoos and sausage.
Mine was cockapoos, beagles, and sausage dogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, isn't it? Because perhaps there is a genetic aspect and we don't have enough scientific research yet. But I see an awful lot of them. But then I also do wonder if there's just an awful lot of those in my local area anyway.
Okay.
Because we are near a cockapoo breeder.
Oh, right.
Breeder. So I get a lot of them.
Yes.
But also I get a lot of sausage dogs, and I think that in part could be because I work, like I'm the head of training for Napo Pet Insurance,
Oh, yes, I
and they're
did see
named
that.
after a sausage dog. And so they obviously have a lot of sausage dogs on the books. So I probably, it's one of those things. Is it that I attract them as clients, or is it just there is more of them with a separation issue? I don't know. Don't think
Okay.
I've proved it yet.
And you
Um,
mentioned obviously the rescue centre near you is quite full. Is that what we're seeing? I mean, again, I'm a bit naive to it, but that obviously I keep seeing like all these rescues coming from abroad and people fostering them and stuff. But are our UK
yeah.
rescue centres very full?
Certainly the ones near us are. And it's difficult because my gut feeling is that a lot of that is to do with finances at the minute.
Sure. And yes,
So
people are finding it tough.
yeah, I mean, as someone who's self-employed, like it is, isn't it? It's hard
Yes.
going at the minute. And we're seeing that a lot in terms of like uptake of services. I think a lot more people in terms of separation cases recently are turning to like free support, like
Mhm.
the app, like, the podcast episodes Julie's done or the Facebook
Yeah.
group and
Yeah.
things like that because they can't afford
That's
to
right.
have a full behavior consult. And maybe they don't even have pet insurance because they can't afford the pet
Yeah.
insurance and things
Yeah.
now. So I think I do think, sadly, dogs are one of the first things where people, if they have to cut money back, they're gonna cut money back on it if they can. So I do
Mm.
think, unfortunately, that is, I know looking at the intake forms for the dogs, like sadly, financial reasons that is becoming very
Mm.
apparent.
Right. And sorry, I didn't check. Where are you based then, Rachel? You
Well, I'm on
Warwickshire?
the Shropshire-Cheshire border, so I'm
Right.
in a
Shropshire, Cheshire. Right. Okay.
yeah, so I'm weird.
Mm.
I've got a Shropshire postcode, but I pay council tax to Cheshire.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
very
Well, we used to live up in Manchester for a bit and in Lancashire and up around that way. But yeah, God, that's interesting. I wondered whether it's like down south, like we've obviously got Battersea and stuff. I just wondered
Mm.
whether there was more, in rescue up that, where you are compared to where we are. But brilliant. So, are there red flags new adopters should look for even in the early inverted commas honeymoon period?
I think there is, yeah. I think it's difficult, isn't it? Because they're things that when you work with separation cases all the time, you know that they mean the dog potentially has a separation problem. But actually, I had a message on TikTok just yesterday, and I thought this is exactly what we're going to be talking about. So I've been doing videos about toilet training.
Okay.
I've got a
Well, you've
12-week-old
got a
puppy,
12
so
week,
right
yeah.
in my mind
What
is
breed?
toilet
I,
training.
I meant to ask you what breed.
Oh, she's a little border terrier.
Oh, okay. Oh, I love her.
So she's full of personality, but she maybe is struggling a little bit on the toilet training front. So it
Okay.
is something that like I'm going through. So I was posting a lot about that, and it's not enjoyable. It's not. And when you get a rescue dog, regardless of age, some of them potentially aren't going to be clean in the house. But it was interesting. So this lady said, I don't understand. I've had my dog for 2 years and I can go out and be fine, could be upstairs having a shower for 40 minutes, but I come down every morning and overnight he's gone to the toilet. And I thought, but if your dog can do it in the day when you're there, I'm not convinced this is purely a toilet training issue. I
Mm,
think you've actually got a separation issue that actually, this person's going to bed at say 10 o'clock at
yeah.
night, getting up at 8 o'clock in the morning. That
Yeah.
dog's on its own, albeit you're in the same house
Yeah.
for quite a long time. So actually, I think if the dog is doing toilet training fine in the daytime, but then is going to the toilet when you're upstairs at night and you're
Mm,
away from them and you're not in the same room, then
mm.
that can be a bit of a red flag that actually we've got a separation issue
I didn't even
already.
think of that. Yeah.
And it's
Interesting.
not, because it's not that they can't physically hold their bladder that long. Because if they can do it in the daytime, why, and that, yes, okay, there can be rare cases where there's something medically going on. But I do think if when you're separated and you're upstairs or you've gone for a shower and you come back and they've gone to the toilet, that's an being apart issue.
Mm,
So I think
mm.
toileting can sometimes be one that we maybe don't think of, particularly with a rescue dog, but we can chalk it up as a little red flag as one to keep an eye on. The other one I think is the vocalization side of things as well. Like if you close a door and they're starting to cry, potentially even scratch, we've got to be aware of that because
Mm.
I think there's so much bad advice online, isn't there, where people will go, oh, you just got to leave them. Just leave them and they'll be quiet.
So old.
Cry it out.
So old school, that is. So out of date.
It is. But people have said it to me. Even knowing what I do for a job, I'm getting people telling me to do it with the puppy. And I'm like, well, I'm absolutely not going to take that advice. Thank you. I will be going downstairs and dealing with the puppy.
You wouldn't let your kid quiet out, though, would you? I don't have kids, but
I don't know. I don't have kids either.
But I just don't think you'd let a kid quiet out. So
no, I wouldn't have thought so now. But you know, I think vocalizations are, again, it's one we need to be aware of, and we need to be. For me, the first thing I did when I got a dog, whether it was my rescue or whether it was the new puppy, because she's the first puppy I've had in a very long time, I've always rescued.
Oh, have you?
Yeah, is get a camera and have the camera on. And even when I first got Pebbles and I was going upstairs to come in the office to do something like this, I'm there on the Ring camera watching her. Is she all right? Is she okay? Checking to see, because I'm just so conscious that I didn't want her sat in her little crate in the kitchen, getting upset and starting to do things that might eventually become a bigger
exactly
problem.
Yeah. You forget how hard work it is with a puppy, don't you? I know I do.
It's absolutely horrible. I am deep within my puppy blues, Nathan, deep within.
But I love that you've rescued. And so what was the rationale behind a puppy now, Rachel? Sorry, I've gone off on one. But
I know, sorry to take you off on a tangent.
No, I love it.
My business name, Nose to Trail,
and
is because I do trailing and the man trailing.
I love your business name.
Yeah, so it's a play on nose to tail, but it's trail because we do pet trailing. And I do pet trailing, or have been for the last kind of 6 years, with my rescue dog from Portugal, who was a street dog in the stray pound, who had 2 days left to live, who came over and ended up, it's magic. He's actually been nominated for a BBC award for he's making a difference, which is lovely. We found that out this morning. So I'm very proud dog mum at the minute, because he has reunited missing dogs with their families again. So he goes off and follows the trail and finds these missing dogs. So he is 10, he needs to retire. And I've been looking for the last kind of 2 years for another dog, a third dog, to be that crazy dog lady and have 3, to come into our family and become my next potential working dog.
Okay.
But because I'm a woman of a certain age, there's a lot of rescue centres who wouldn't rehome to me because, quote, you might change your mind and you might have a child.
Oh, okay.
I will not be changing my mind and will not be having a child anytime soon. But that was a reason they wouldn't give me a dog. There was actually a Border Terrier puppy that had separation issues. They wanted it to go to a home with another small dog and someone who had experience of separation issues. So I was like, ideal, perfect, applied. They wouldn't let me have her because I won't raw feed. And so I hit this wall so many times trying to rehome. And it's been a really hard decision for me because it's going against all my ethics getting a puppy. But in the end, I came across, because one of my clients was getting one of them, this lovely litter. Mum and dad, a brilliant temperament, are both healthy. They were raised in a lovely environment. And I thought, you know what, it's going to be the right size to fit in with my 2 small dogs that I've got. It's going to weigh about the same. I've had Border Terriers before. It's clearly just meant to be.
Yeah.
So here we are, 4 weeks in with Pebbles, the Border Terrier.
Pebbles. Oh, I love it. And yeah, Border Terriers, they're full of character, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
Brilliant.
Maybe a bit too much character, the 13 and 10-year-olds seem to think. But
okay. I love that, though. Brilliant. So moving on to our next question then. So we've sort of touched on it a little bit, but what role does the dog's previous history play and what doesn't it tell us?
Yeah, I think it varies massively from dog to dog. But when we're specifically thinking about rescue dogs, we probably just don't know the full history of the dog. I wish they could tell us. I really do. But sadly, we just don't know. And actually, I've had rescue dogs who've had separation issues that I've worked with, where we've been able to find triggering incidents that have caused their separation issues. So one of them actually was a collie who was given up, working collie who was in a family home, who actually went into the rehoming centre because he was rounding up the children. So not separation related, was herding the kids.
Wow.
We shouldn't laugh, but genuinely did herd them up into the garden shed. So I know you shouldn't laugh, but he, bless his soul, he needed a working job to the right home.
What he was bred to do.
Yeah, and he was from a farm. He wasn't, from a pet family. He was from a working farm in Wales. And he ended up in the kennels. And really sadly, while he was in the kennels, we had a massive storm the other year, a huge storm, and the roof of the kennels collapsed
Oh, bloody
whilst he was
hell.
in there on his own at night.
Oh,
And that seems to have been, for him, this isolated incident where now when he's left, he's panicking. And I do
not
think it's
surprised.
because he's had that horrific experience
Mm,
whilst he was on his own.
mm,
And normally we don't have such detailed history of the dog. We don't know what's happened like that. But for him, we can pin it right back to that. And sadly for him, he's now got phobias for like storm weather as well, because it was all interlinked. So like really
mm,
heavy rain, that also triggers him. And there's a lot, bless him, a lot to work on. But history is going to play a role. But what we can't change the past. So
mm.
actually, as much as it would sometimes be helpful to know, we've just got to focus on the future and how we work with that dog moving forward. And I think you'll be well aware of this, as someone who's worked on separation cases, that the most important thing really is for those dogs, they're not left again for any
Yeah,
longer than they could with.
yeah.
And that is what makes them such hard cases to work through, because the level of investment from the guardian or the owner or the adopter, whoever's taken this pet on, whatever you want to call them,
Mm,
is high. Like they
mm,
have to be willing to not leave that dog if the dog can't cope
mm.
with not being left. And that's a lot to ask of someone, which I
Yeah,
guess is why both of us enjoy them so much as a case, because you're helping not only the dog, but the human, aren't you?
yeah,
And
yeah.
the back at the dog is then a confident, happy dog as
Yeah.
well.
I think you
Like
just
for
get
us,
so
it's really rewarding, isn't
it
it?
is. You just get so invested, don't you? I feel.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And I just wanted to quickly touch back on your point where you just going back to the previous where we said about that they wouldn't let you have the dog because you may have children. And I don't want to speak ill health of UK rescues, but do you think that's why loads of people are adopting from abroad because it's so hard to get to adopt in the UK? That's what I'm
Yeah,
hearing.
100%. Because the local kennels to me is an overseas rescue. They primarily take Romanian rescues and Bosnian rescues and bring them into the UK. And when I speak to people who adopt dogs from there, they tell me time and time again that the main rescues in the UK wouldn't give them a dog.
Oh,
So they took a dog from overseas when it wouldn't
mm,
necessarily have been their first choice. For some people, it is. They
mm,
really want to help an overseas rescue. But for some people, it's because they really want to rescue. They don't want to buy a dog or go to a
mm,
breeder.
mm.
But the only rescues they can get to are these little, less known rescues that maybe don't have as much red tape
Yeah.
around who they will let adopt a dog.
Yeah. And just your point on Romanians, they come with a whole raft of issues sometimes. We work with a lot of, because with the dog walking side of the business, like one of the girls that works with me, bless her, she does a lot of work with like the Romanian rescues, building up like that trust and bond. But some are absolutely fine, but then some, they do come with a lot of like
Yeah.
a lot of trauma, a lot of, I don't want to say like issues, but they do come with a lot of stuff to unpack.
They're a very different type of dog, typically, I think, to
Mm,
a dog who's been born in the UK, is from the UK, has lived in a home and then ended up in a rescue. A dog
mm,
from the streets in an environment which is so completely different to ours,
mm,
and what they've gone through is so completely different, I think, to a lot of the UK rescues. It is very, very different. It is. And
mm,
I think sadly there's quite a lot of judgment and prejudice against those rescues, and a lot of people have very strong beliefs as to whether or not we should have adopted from abroad and should we be allowing these dogs in the country and all of these things, which
mm,
I think you could have a whole other podcast episode on those. But I think at the end of the day, to me, the way I see it, and I have an overseas street dog, so I'd be very hypocritical to judge anybody, but they're in this country, they're in a home. There is absolutely no point in being unpleasant or judgmental towards the people who've adopted those dogs,
mm.
particularly if they reach out to you for help. Like,
That's
dogs deserve help.
terrible.
Oh, yeah, because I've got a couple of Romanian rescues who we're actually seeing for reactivity cases, and they actually only applied for one, but when the dog appeared, they dropped two dogs off. And this is just in case anybody works out which rescue is near me. It's not that rescue. It's a totally different rescue. I can't even remember the name of the rescue, but they just dropped two off and they were like, oh, these two get on really well. So actually you're going to have two.
Oh,
And so
okay.
they left this couple with two adolescent, shepherdy type, big dogs, and said, oh yeah, but you can't take them out for 3 weeks. Just leave them in their crates. They'll be fine.
Oh my
Lo and behold,
goodness.
Nathan, they have a whole heap of behavioural issues, and these poor people are really struggling.
I'm not
And there's no rescue
surprised.
backup. There's no support for these dogs. And so they took them to the vets because they were like, we're struggling. We need help. And the first vet that they went to said, well, you shouldn't have adopted from abroad, should you?
Oh, bloody hell.
And
Right,
so I
okay.
get this phone call last Christmas from these people, you know, in floods of tears because even the vet won't help them. We don't know who to turn to. We don't know what to do. We're scared in our own home.
Oh my
And you just,
God.
would that help anybody? Even if that's your personal opinion that we shouldn't be bringing dogs into the
So
UK,
judgmental.
it's awful. It didn't help anybody. It
Yeah.
really, like, you know, it's so sad. And I think that's one of the things that myself and I, you know, I've got a team now of 4 rehab trainers who work with me on cases.
Oh,
And
wow.
all of them, one of the things I'm so like is our core thing is you absolutely do not judge people. You don't
No.
judge people for the problems they are having with their dogs. We are there to support. We are there to listen. We are there to help. We're not there to make anybody feel rubbish about what they're doing. We're just not.
I
Just
don't
not.
I don't think people are really prepared how much work's involved, are they, sometimes? Because you just don't know what you're getting, like that couple,
Mm.
and it can be full on. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right, lovely. Moving on to our next section, which is all about the settling in period and early days in a new home. What would be, Rachel, your top recommendations for helping a newly adopted dog settle in those first few weeks, please?
Yeah. So I think we need to be prepared to do very little. So all
Exactly.
the
Less
things
is
you
more.
normally do in your life, you need to be prepared that you're not doing those for a good few weeks. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie, I have been bored out of my mind the last few weeks because I haven't been able to go out and see clients face to face. I've
Right.
been trapped in the house with the puppy because I don't want her to develop separation issues. And actually, I feel like I should start a petition online for us to get like puppy leave or
Yes.
rescue dog leave because
Yes.
you wouldn't have a new baby and bring it home or adopt a child and bring them home and then just carry on as normal the next day. But people seem to with dogs. So they get a dog that they've maybe seen 2 or 3 times and they come home with it on the Saturday because they've driven to the rescue centre, brought it back, had Saturday night to settle it in, Sunday to be with it, and then they go to work for 8
Oh,
hours on the Monday and
oh
think
my
it's going to
God.
be okay.
No.
I really think the best thing you can do is use some of your annual
Yeah,
leave
take a couple
and
of
be
weeks
off.
off. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've said that
Not
before.
only, you know, for their sake, but also for yours. Bond with them. You know, you just made this commitment for 10, 15 years, potentially, with this living thing that has come to depend on you, and it is dependent on you.
Mm,
So enjoy it. Get to bond with them.
yeah.
Spend that time with them. And actually forming that secure attachment with them
Yeah.
is going to prevent some separation issues in most cases. You know, with some
Yeah.
dogs, unfortunately, they're gonna have issues, even if you take that time off, and it's gonna be harder to go back to a normal life. But I do think don't be planning to go to the cinema. You're not gonna be going necessarily to the gym at 6 o'clock the next morning like you've always used to, unless there's multiple people in the house. You know,
Yes.
if there's multiple people, I do think it is on the whole easier, unless the dog suddenly develops a hyper attachment issue to one primary caregiver.
Mm,
But that's rare, isn't it? I mean, most of the time, the dog is scared of being on its own. So
yeah.
if there's you and a partner or you and a housemate or whoever in this day and age that you live with, then you can kind of share the love and share the duties and you can
Yeah.
pop out and it's easier. But I spend 90% of my time on my own. And so
Right.
I'm stuck and it's me and the dogs. And so, you know, yesterday was actually the first time I left my puppy and went to the shops. I've had her 4 weeks. I finally built up last night because it's too hot. I couldn't take her and leave her in the car. It's
Yes.
far too hot.
Yeah.
And I've been flitting. We've been doing lots of micro absences. I've been spending time up here in my office and going out into the garden and doing stuff. But I finally drove away from the house and I
Oh,
was there,
okay.
got to the bottom before you go onto like the main road because I've got a driveway. I went
Did
down
you
the
check the
driveway and I went,
camera?
yeah, 100%. Get to Sainsbury's, check the camera or she's okay. Walking around Sainsbury's, but barely paying any attention to what I'm buying. Just checking the camera the whole time. She was absolutely fine. Didn't even notice when I got home.
Really?
Yeah, until I opened the door into the kitchen where she was fast asleep. Then I got her head up and, oh, hello. Where have you been?
Okay.
And I was so happy. I was like, proud dog mum moment. Really proud because she's absolutely fine. But I have, for the best part of 4 weeks, she's gone everywhere with me or I've not gone.
Right.
Like, and I think people need, I know that probably sounds unrealistic to most people, but it will potentially make your life much easier from a separation viewpoint if you can prepare to be off during that period.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I've seen like now there's adoption leave for humans, so we do need something similar to if we adopt or get a puppy.
Yeah. When you're self-employed, it's all right though, isn't it? I just blocked off in my
Yeah.
calendar and said to people, I'll be working on Zoom only. That's all I can do until the puppy's ready.
Yeah.
Like, that's it.
Oh, brilliant. It's exciting though. So we have touched this just now, but should guardians leave them to settle or be more hands-on? What would be the balance there?
It is a balance, isn't it? Because you can't micromanage and watch them all the time. You do need to start to develop a little bit of kind of self-settling and the ability for them not to depend on you all the time. But I also think we can proactively be doing that as a choice. So in terms of the training that we do, so like I put my bin outside from day dot. So every time I had a bit of rubbish in the kitchen, I had to go out of the house to put it in the bin, which meant I was gone, but I was gone for like, 20 seconds?
Yeah.
And then I'm back.
Yeah.
And so actually that flitting in and out, in and out, in and out, whilst it may just seem like a little thing, is a good thing and is probably really helped.
Yeah.
And then you can build that up for longer because I could go and faff in the garage and then come back and it was fine. Little things like that. And also proactively teaching a settle. So teaching them to be able to relax and be with you, but not need attention from you is letting themselves settle. But equally, you're making that choice to teach the dog that independent skill. And I think we do need to do that. But I'm certainly not buying into the old school, just leave them to cry it out. Absolutely not.
Do more harm than good.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Definitely.
How can we introduce gentle independence building without causing stress? Is this like this flitting stuff that you're talking about?
Yeah, I think that can be really helpful. But I think other things that we can do from a training viewpoint can also help build confidence in dogs. And actually, that's partly why I use the pet trailing and the man trailing techniques with all of my behavior cases, whether they're reactive or they're separation, because we're allowing a dog to be a dog, but we're also doing something that's enjoyable. So it has loads of benefit, but it teaches them to have confidence and build that self-confidence. Because a lot of the dogs we're seeing with separation issues are lacking in confidence in every area, aren't they? They're nervous dogs. I mean, you mentioned with the dog has other issues. There's a pain. We've got resource guarding. We've got other things at play. And quite a lot of the time there is, isn't there? It's not purely separation.
No.
The dog will be displaying other anxious or worried behaviors. So if we can start to make them more confident and have that belief that everything is okay and have a more positive, optimistic outlook of the world, they're going to cope better when they're left as well. So for me, it's pet trailing. That's just my bag. That's what I like to teach. But like Mel, who works with me, she teaches hoopers. And again, that's like moving away from the owner. So
distance handling,
and they're not, I think sometimes my clients look at me like, what? Because they expect me to be like, put your coat on and off, shoes on and off, pick up your car keys, up and down, up and down. And they think that's the type of training you've got to do for separation issues. And I'm there like, right, we're going to teach your dog to find missing dogs. And they're like, what? And actually, I find it's really nice because it's different, because separation training can be boring, can't it? I know we've not got into a huge deal of it, but it can be boring. It can be repetitive. It can take a long time. So doing something where actually they go out and they see their dog thrive and they do brilliantly at it and they see their dog having fun can help, I think, the owner, the human end of the leash, fall back in love with their dog again and have a nice bonding moment. Because actually, as much as, they might not want to admit it and it's not a nice thing to say, you can start to resent your dog if they've got a separation issue. A lot of people who come to me are really at the end of their tether. Like, they're really finding life hard. They feel really trapped. And in a lot of cases are regretting getting the dog if it's a rescue dog and thinking, or even I see people really starting to be annoyed at the kennels. Like, they didn't disclose this to me. They didn't tell me. They didn't tell me how hard it was going to be. And so having an activity where they have fun together I think can be really helpful in getting through those cases.
Yeah, definitely. Just quickly, I've heard of man trailing before, but is the pet trailing, what's pet trailing? Is that finding dogs then? I've not heard of that before.
So finding pets. So it is exactly the same as man trailing, but rather than finding a human, we find a pet. Typically it's dogs, because in terms of the training, most people just do it for fun. And so you're not going to have most people, some people will, but most people are not going to have their cat or their ferret or guinea pig on a lead. So most of the time it's a quote unquote stooge lost dog that we're hiding. So another person in the class, and then the dog will sniff something of that dog's, maybe some fur, maybe a poo, and they will then follow the scent trail to find the missing dog. But it doesn't have to be a dog. My boy actually went out to find Cinnamon, the missing capybara. Don't know if you ever saw that on the news in September. She
What was
escaped
that?
from a zoo in Telford, and Rico went out looking for Cinnamon, the capybara.
Wow.
The weirdest Wednesday I've ever had, but it was certainly fun.
It does sound brilliant. All right, let's move on then to essay in practice. So what it looks like and what works. What are some of the most common signs that a rescue dog is struggling with being left? Well, it's the same for any dog, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I think so. I think probably the ones that people recognize the most are like destruction and the toileting that we talked about before, or your neighbor coming around and saying your dog's vocalized and barked and shouted or screamed the entire time you were out, or a passive aggressive Facebook post saying somebody's dog has been barking the entire time. Anybody know dogs? Oh, every Facebook group, isn't it? Such local community group. Could somebody shut that dog up?
And they're normally post anonymous, and then they're like, oh my God.
Because they don't want their neighbour to realise it's them. Instead of just going around and being like, I'm genuinely concerned that your dog is unhappy.
Yeah.
It's often a human-based problem, isn't it?
The thing is, if they don't have a camera, they may not know either.
Yes. And that is the thing for me, that I think so many people miss the more subtle signs, because bless them, there's so many dogs suffering in silence. Or people don't realise, so they're like, oh, he gets so excited to see me, goes and eats the Kong that I left for him in the morning. And I think the fact he couldn't eat the entire time you were at work is a huge red flag for me.
Yes.
That he felt so uncomfortable and so stressed he couldn't eat.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding. Problem. Because actually most dogs in the daytime are going to have a snack if it's there.
Yes.
My 3 would have no problem eating a stuffed dog when I was out. Quite happy to eat that. So I think not eating, pacing, lip licking, yawning.
Yeah, well, those
not
signs.
going to sleep, because dogs should be asleep. So if they're just staring at a door for 8 hours whilst you're at work, not good. Not good at all. But you wouldn't know, would you? If you didn't have a camera, you wouldn't know. And I do wonder if that's why we're seeing more cases, because as a nation, maybe worldwide as well, we're just a bit more dog obsessed than we were 15 years ago.
We are.
They're with us, everywhere's dog friendly. They're at the coffee shop. Mine goes to the nail bar with me. Like, they go everywhere. She actually came to the hairdressers, the puppy. And so I think now we want to see them, don't we? But when I had my first 2 border terriers, 20 years ago, didn't have a camera. Nobody had a camera.
No. Well, we didn't have iPhones. Yeah.
Just
the modems and the wires.
Yeah. So I think now we know more.
We do.
And so maybe that's why we're seeing a higher percentage of dogs that have it, or we're reporting a higher number of dogs who have it. But so many signs that perhaps we're just not aware of.
Do you know if many BTs have had it before?
I'm going to say no. I've never had one.
I just wondered, because you've had...
No, I've not had one. Have you had one?
I haven't come across any, no.
I mean, I'm very biased, but I find border terriers to be quite a robust, hardy little dog.
Yes.
Other than the nickname of border terrorists, and they can be a little bit dog reactive and spicy.
Yeah.
I don't see them for many other behavioural issues. Like I've not had any with repetitive behaviours. I also don't see many with a huge number of like genetically predisposed health problems. There is a bit of Cushing's going on, but on the whole, touch wood, they're quite a breed we haven't messed with too much just yet. And long may it last.
Yeah, long. Brilliant. So how do you begin building a plan with clients once SA is suspected, Rachel?
Yeah, so I'm a registered clinical animal behaviourist.
Yeah,
So
yes, that's just tell our listeners what that might mean if they don't
yeah,
know.
so I'm accredited through the ABTC, the Animal Behaviour Training Council,
Yes,
and the APBC, because we love an acronym.
we
So the
do.
Association of Pet Behaviour Counsellors, as a registered clinical animal behaviourist. So a
Yes.
bit like doctor, dentist, lawyer, the term behaviourist isn't protected. So anybody can claim to be a behaviourist. So if you go on Google and you type in behaviourist, you won't necessarily get someone who's a clinical animal behaviourist. Whereas a clinical animal behaviourist has to have kind of a higher level of knowledge in
Mhm.
theory. So, we've all been assessed. Like I have a master's degree in
Oh,
animal
wow.
behaviour, so level
Okay.
7.
Yeah.
But the main thing is that we have to work with our local vet.
That's
So
it. The vets. Yes.
I work under vet referral only. So
Right.
the first thing for me is if someone approaches me and says kind of, I've got a dog with a separation issue, unless it's a puppy, which is different because that's normal, that's puppy distress. And we're typically teaching that dog it's okay to be alone rather than dealing with a dog who has a full-blown fear of being left, which is different. Then they have to go to their vet and get a vet referral for me. I
Mhm.
have to do that. It's part of my code of conduct. But also, it's really helpful because a lot of the dogs, and I do think the rescue dogs actually potentially have an underlying medical cause linking to their separation problem
Mm.
that may not have been identified.
Mm.
And we can do as many repetitions of activities like door is a bore or gradual desensitization programs. We can do as many of those as we want. But if, like in the case of Salem the Husky that I worked with, the reason the dog can't be left is because they've got horrific hip dysplasia and arthritis and are in daily pain, we're not going to get anywhere.
And they're
And so
so good at
actually,
hiding that pain.
yeah, they had no idea. So this husky that I was working with, actually, it was referred to me. Nothing was flagged on the vet referral. Perfectly healthy dog. We'd worked through normal separation stuff for ages. We were getting nowhere. I was hitting my head off a brick wall. Like I just was like, this just isn't working. They couldn't get anything. And I actually went to see him. And I don't normally for separation cases. I take
Mm.
cases from the UK and abroad and work
Yes.
virtually. And they were about an hour and a half's drive. And I just thought, you know what? There's something I'm
You need
missing.
to
I'm going to
see,
go
yeah.
see this dog. Like, there's
Sometimes
something
you
else.
have to.
Yeah. And I went out and we went for a walk, actually. And I noticed that he was only weeing on one leg. So, like, he would only ever lift his right leg up and have his weight on his left leg. So, if you're walking along, he would turn 180 degrees round to cock his leg and wee. And that's not normal. Most dogs
Mm.
will lift either left or right, won't they? Whichever
Mm.
next to the vertical surface, they'll cock their leg up and wee. And I said, does he always do that? And they were like, well, I don't know. I've never noticed.
Oh, God.
And so I said, look, let's just watch that. And he would never weight bear on the other leg. Never. And because he was a big fluffy husky, you couldn't see much else in terms of how he was walking. Like there wasn't much going on. Like, a Labrador, you could see the skin and the muscles and see what else was happening. There was nothing else I could see. So I flagged it with the vets and they were kind of like, well, he's healthy. There's nothing wrong with him. Bless the couple. They trusted me because they've been working with me for a long time.
Yeah.
And I said, look, if it was my dog, I'd be going and seeing another vet.
Yeah, I
And the
have
other vet
second
look at it
opinion.
and said, yeah, horrific hip dysplasia. We need to x-ray him.
Mad.
X-rayed him. One of the worst cases of hip dysplasia they'd ever seen. His bone was basically entirely out of his hip. He needed to have a huge operation and on pain relief straight away. And actually, they sent me the most lovely video of after he'd had the surgery, he'd recovered, he'd had sleeping fine during the day, not a problem. And so for him, that separation issue was being caused by the fact that he was panicking because he's in pain. When they're
Mm.
there, he were like a comfort blanket. He
Mm.
was fine when they were there. When
Mm.
they left, he couldn't cope. And so
Mm.
actually we could have potentially wrongly, as a lot of people do, gone, oh, dog can't be left home alone. It must be anxiety. Therefore, it must have fluoxetine. And actually, we can't prescribe. I can't prescribe as a clinical animal behaviorist, as a separation coach. You can't prescribe. But dogs will get put on anti-anxiety medication, assuming that is the cause of their separation issue.
Mm.
When in this dog's case, what he needed was pain relief. And so
Yeah.
for me, that element of like working closely with the vets is really important to how I
Mm.
treat separation cases.
Yeah.
And sometimes it takes a bit of digging, and sometimes we don't know because there's no bump, there's no break, there's no limp, and it can be quite hard to find out if there is a health thing going on, but sometimes there is. And
Mm.
so we've got to be mindful, and that's always a red flag for me if someone's dog has been fine for years and then develops separation anxiety around age 8, when we know 80% of dogs at that age have got arthritis. So I start to be like, this is a bit weird. Why have all of a sudden we've got an issue? Oh, and
Mm.
now he doesn't read puppies. Now he won't get in the car. And you start to piece together all of these issues. But the
Mm.
one they was for help with is separation issues because it impacts the human's life.
It does.
Whereas the others are just like, oh, he's getting annoying on walks, but it's manageable. I can deal with it. Actually, that's the dog going, I need help.
I
I'm
need
in pain.
help.
I need
Yeah.
help. So yeah, for
Oh.
me, I always start with that, like full health check, really digging deep with the vet before I do any kind of separation plan at all.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's good that you said, because it's mad how the first vet said there was nothing wrong. So I always do say to like someone when I work with people, get a second opinion. You know, I've had to
Yeah.
do that with Bailey because of his chronic back pain. 2 specialist places had to get a second opinion. And it's also worth noting, isn't it, that the pet parent may be able to claim on their insurance for CAB
Yeah.
stuff. So it's always
Yeah.
worth looking into your insurance, isn't it?
Yeah, if you've got a fully comprehensive pet insurance, most of them will cover complementary therapies. So maybe behavior, maybe hydrotherapy or physiotherapy and things like that. So definitely worth people checking. And because I am on that ABTC register, that is the accreditations you need for a pet insurance. If they're going to cover behavior, we're the group of people they're going to pay out for
Yeah.
because we are rigorously assessed and they know we're not going to stick any horrible aversive methods on a dog to get them over their separation issue.
That's it. Brilliant. Why? This is a good point, actually, talking about, I always get them confused, the ABTC or whatever.
Oh, I know. Yeah, if we can't remember them, how is the general public ever going to know?
There's just so many, like, you know. So why is it so important to work with a certified separation anxiety professional or a CAB, a clinical animal behaviourist, Rachel?
I think the first thing is the myths, isn't it? There's so much misinformation online that will potentially be detrimental to a dog who has separation issues. So you need to be working with someone who knows about separation issues properly, not just something they found online, and knows that it is different to most dog training. Because for a dog with separation issues, we are not looking at the same type of training as we are when we're asking a dog to do training, like sit, down, stand, stay. We're not using operant conditioning. We're typically not using food at all as a food reward. Whereas, and I think that's where maybe some trainers, and I could be doing people a disservice here, but that I think is sometimes where people can struggle with helping a client with a separation issue, because what you would do for any other problem doesn't work with separation because you're not there to reward. You're not there to go, yes, and have a biscuit. Like, you can't do that in a separation case. And also, we have to work at that threshold of the individual dog. So we do need tech. We do need cameras. We need to be able to see what that dog is doing when we're not there. And again, tech for some people just isn't their thing. They want to be out with a dog on a lead with toys and treats in a field and doing training like that, which is great, you know, and it's not for everybody. But the other thing for me is you want to be working with someone who is appropriately trained, whether it's a clinical animal behaviourist, a vet behaviourist, or one of Julie's team who's been trained in separation. Because if we look at trainers, if we just go on Google and we type in dog trainer to help a separation issue, what I find in my local area, because a lot of my clients have been to these trainers before they come.
Yeah.
Because they do great advertising and they pay for their position on Google to be higher ranked and all of these things. They paid for marketing. And they look great and they've got millions of followers on social media and they look fantastic, but they will use aversive methods. And they treat the symptom, so the problem the dog is displaying, let's go with vocalization, because I have an example of where this has happened. So they will come in and go, what's the problem? Oh, the problem is the dog barks when I'm out of the house. So they go, right, well, your neighbours are complaining. You don't like it. Let's stop the dog barking. And how they might do that is they'll stick an e-collar on the dog. They'll go out the house with the owner or the pet guardian, however you want to refer to yourself. And as soon as the dog barks, they electrocute the dog and they zap it. Okay. And I don't know what terminology they might be using, a correction, whatever they want to call it. Oh, it's not that bad. It's not that awful. It works in a sense of it stops the dog barking because the dog goes, when I bark, this horrible thing happens. Okay. That's the whole reason punishment works, is because it's unpleasant. So yes, it's unpleasant for the dog. Otherwise it wouldn't be working. But then what happens typically is the owner can't do that. So it's not consistent, because if they're at work, they're not hearing the dog bark. So they're not using the e-collar, and it gets worse and worse and worse. Or the dog then actually still hates being alone, is still afraid of being on its own, but is now even more afraid because actually gets hurt every time the owner leaves the house. And so our separation problem gets worse. And now we'll destroy the couch, or we'll rip the skirting board off, or I've chewed through the door. Or in one of the cases that I worked with, the dog started blocking the humans from leaving in the morning and biting them when they tried to go over the threshold, because he was so scared of being left. He was jumping up and biting them. And for me, like, we have to understand that a dog who doesn't like being left is struggling typically with anxiety or fear. Some cases, me and you know, are frustration based, but either way, it's not a good emotion. The dog isn't feeling nice about being left. If they were, we wouldn't have an issue. If they were happy to be left, we wouldn't have an issue. So they're not happy about being left. So adding something unpleasant into that situation is only going to make that a million times worse.
Yeah.
So a very long answer, Nathan, sorry, as to why you need to work with a professional. But ultimately, because if you're not working with someone who knows what they're doing on separation, you could just be making it worse.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that. Thank you so
much. It's
much.
take longer to get over.
It is, yeah. And it's quite a lengthy thing anyway. So yeah, no, I love that. Thank you. So just moving on to our final section now, which is just about the guardian emotions and the rescue realities. So many rescue dog guardians feel overwhelmed or like they're failing, but how can we help them reframe that experience, Rachel?
Yeah, I think peer support is really helpful in those situations. So I know the Julie Naismith way of training, she's got great Facebook groups with thousands of dog owners who've struggled with separation. And I think that's really important because, well, they're free for one, but you can go in there, you can see that other people have been through what you've been through and got over it. But also smaller groups. So like I have a membership for Nose to Trail, and we have like our own Facebook page and WhatsApp group and stuff as a little community, and they rally around and they help each other. But you can also like potentially find another person who's got a dog with separation in your area, and you can help each other out, because it can end up being expensive as well. You know, hiring a dog sitter and stuff, if you don't have family and friends nearby, and a lot of people don't where I live. Like we're really rural, so a lot of people are here for work for whatever reason, and they maybe are, you know, on their own doing this. But if you can pair them up, and if the dogs are okay with each other, you can take it in turns. You can have some time off. And I think that's really important, because caregiver fatigue is strong in separation anxiety cases, and you need to give yourself a break. I'm actually going to a spa tomorrow and having a break from the puppy. Can't wait. But
Love it.
you need that support. So I think peer support's really important, and success stories are really important, because I think it can feel like you're getting nowhere and that you're going to be stuck in this rut forever. So seeing people who've been through it and come out the other side, I think, can be that little bit of ray of hope that we sometimes need in a separation case.
Brilliant. What would be your advice to someone who's adopted a dog and is now realizing it's a more complex case than they expected?
Yeah. Get help from someone. Do not do it on your own. Okay. And definitely give yourself those breaks. Like, find ways, get dog sitters, paid for or not. And the more kind of Bailey sitters or whoever it is that you have on board, the less you're going to feel like you're asking too much of one individual person. So if you've got only like 2 people you ask, you're going to feel like, oh, I can't ask them. I asked them last week. I can't ask them. They were only here the other night. But if you've got a bigger group of people who your dog can bond with and who can sit with your dog, and that's so important, isn't it? Because actually, if your dog doesn't enjoy their company, they may as well be on their own, because they're still going to go above threshold when they're left. So they need to be people that you can form bonds with, but you need to get those people in place, because you need to have that time off and to yourself. However you find that, and don't feel guilty for needing that, because it is so important.
You need that support network. And I think you said obviously you've got your communities, but I think Julie's got something as well where you can like to meet up with someone at house that's got an SA dog if you need daycare cover. And so it's important to get your support network, isn't it, sorted?
I'm actually in touch with one of the people who got Pebbles' brother.
Oh, so cute.
Yeah, Hector. He's really chunky compared to Pebbles. Yeah, Hector and Pebbles. And so we've already said that. Like, you know, when she needs a break, I will have both the gremlins. And when I need a break, she will have both the gremlins. And we'll just do little play dates. You know, even if it's only once a month, one of us will just take both for a day and give the other a break. So things like that can be really nice. Yeah. I'm looking forward to having both of them though. Just seeing them riot together.
Hector, I've got to see that. How can we better prepare or support people adopting rescue dogs with potential SA issues, Rachel?
Yeah, I think, and I feel bad for saying this because I don't want to come across like I'm slating vets and slating rescue centres, but I think people need to be more honest and transparent about how difficult it is. I know that the people working in rescue have so many pressures and demands on them that they need to get these dogs home. They have numbers and quotas they need to hit. And there's a lot of pressure on, well, you know, until that dog gets a home, there's another dog can't go in and all of that. But actually, a dog with a separation issue, one of the worst things we can do is to place that dog in a home that then they come back within 24 hours or 48 hours or a week later. And having 7, 8, 9, 10 homes before it finds a home that are dedicated to keeping them and working with them is only going to be to their detriment. So I think it's horrible and it's sad, but we need to keep explaining to people how hard it's going to be. And we need people to realize the harsh reality of having a separation dog, that you can't just carry on life as normal. You can't leave them. And I think if you've not had a separation case and a dog who struggles with being left, like those blasé comments of just leave them, they'll get over it, they'll be fine, it's only a dog,
can make it worse.
Yeah, and you don't understand, and you don't. And I think people need to realize it isn't as easy as that. If it was, we wouldn't have all of these people around the world who are desperate for help and are working so hard to get their dogs to cope. But actually it's not, and you can't. And we've got to be honest. We really need to be honest with people and let them know what they're taking on. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Rachel, thank you so much. We're just going to spend the last few minutes wrapping up. It's been a jam-packed episode, and I know you've got to get back to Pebbles, but I think we're going to have to get you on. I feel like we've just scratched the surface, and there's so much more we could talk about with the pet trailing, the man trailing, and you know, rescue work and behaviour work. I'd love to get you back on again in the future. But Rachel, if you could share one truth with every rescue dog guardian facing SA, what would it be, please?
That it is hard. And they don't need to feel ashamed or embarrassed to admit that they're struggling with it, because it really is hard work. It is exhausting. It is mentally draining. And, you know, there's no shame in that. And I think sometimes people can feel like maybe guilt or embarrassment and that they're not coping. But actually, I don't think many people would cope. I really don't. You know, given a dog where they're really struggling and you're coming back and you can tell they're struggling, and that guilt that you feel, and then so you don't go out, and the impact it has on your life, like, it is hard. And so people should just like know they're not alone and they need to get some help and support with it.
Brilliant. Thank you. Rachel Rodgers, where can people find out about you now? I'm really worried now. I've been threatening this whole episode that I might have said your business name wrong, but it's Nose to Trow. And I'm really worried that I said Nose to Trow. So I apologise if I did.
I think you did. I didn't want to call you out on it.
Right, and then I'm frantically going through my notes thinking I've said the wrong.
There have been many a podcast episode where I have said it's actually Nose to Trail, because we do pet trailing and man trailing. I think that was after 5 years. It's just what I say.
You should have called me out, because literally just like I'm dying inside. But
no, don't worry, everyone does it. Everyone does it.
Rachel, where can people find you, follow your work, get support if they're navigating this with their own dog, please?
Yeah, so we're on all socials, basically, on Nose to Trail. Sometimes it's Nose to Trail Pet Behaviour Services, because somebody stole the handle, I think, on Facebook.
Oh, very nice.
Even though I've got it trademarked, I'm still fighting with Meta to get it back. But yeah, if you just put Nose to Trail in, you'll find us, particularly on TikTok. I'm much more active on TikTok than I am on other socials.
Okay, brilliant. Rachel, thank you so much for joining me on the Yappy Hour powered by Yappily today. I've absolutely loved this conversation. Like I said, we'll have to get you back in the future, but I've really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great fun.
You're most welcome. That was such a grounding and compassionate conversation with Rachel Rodgers. Here are a few key takeaways from today's episode. Number 1, separation anxiety is common in rescue dogs, but it's not a life sentence. With support, structure, and patience, progress is always possible. Number 2, early routines and gradual independence are crucial. SA support starts from day 1, not once the behaviours have escalated. Number 3, and most importantly, it is not your fault. SA is a complex, emotional, and deeply rooted in a dog's past. Number 4, the human experience matters too. You deserve support just as much as your dog does. Rachel, thank you so much for your empathy and your wisdom today. For anyone wanting to learn more or work with Rachel, head to nosetotrowel.co.uk to follow her on Facebook at Nose to Trowel. And if you found this episode helpful, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone who's supporting a rescue dog through SA. This has been the Yappy Hour, and I'll see you next time.